I'm Ridhya Raj here. It is Rasam Swami's 100th birthday episode, and we're back with Dr. Hari Conjeevaram, who's sharing with us about the importance of the self-reflection and the lessons that we learn.
Yep, absolutely. So, anytime what may look like a challenging situation or, people talking about you or you're perceiving things differently, I think it's always good to self-reflect. And we tend to go, the human nature is that tend to go on a defense. Oh, I didn't do this, but we did give a perception that I always kind of self-reflect on that. Is it that I did that I even made them
Mm.
that way? And I tell everyone the same thing as well. When they come to me and said, I don't know why they're asking me this, or when they're talking about this, I said, what did you do? What's the perception you gave? That's equally important sometimes, and I think that's very important at all times. And a lot of times the situations also, you know, um, show me a lot of empathy as well.
Yeah.
Uh, like as I was saying, a lot of times, we don't know what we would do in difficult situations or
Mm.
situations. I like to think today that I'm not going to do this, this, and this. But if I were put in that position, how
Oh,
would
yeah.
I? We don't know that. Or we can say that I will never do it. Hopefully, we never, because that's the conviction. But when you listen to people's stories, they're so heart-wrenching, something so desperate, it made them do something. And I hope I don't do that if I don't think it's the right thing, but I don't know that. Of course,
Yeah.
it's good to be confident that you won't. But when you don't understand that, show empathy. People
Yes.
mistake um, if something did wrong between punishment and empathy. What I mean by that is that if someone did wrong, they do need to pay for it. That means whatever that punishment is, whether it's paying a ticket for speeding or if it's going to jail for something, a consequence. But that doesn't mean that you cannot show empathy to that
Yeah.
person. That is so important. I think people, a lot of times you see, they separate that out. That means if someone needs a punishment, you're no longer going to talk to them. You're no longer going to
Mhm.
be nice to them. And to me, that's completely wrong, actually. Show that love, that never love that, let that love go away, no matter what
Yeah.
that situation is. At the same time, explain to them the consequences or what
Mm.
needs to be done as well. And I find that when you do that, people actually appreciate you
Oh,
so.
yes.
You know, I always say, when you're trying to give an answer which is really not palatable or not good for the other person, what they are hearing, after the conversation, they should thank you for that. And
Yeah.
I so many times, it just shows that when we are honest and truthful, while showing compassion and empathy, understanding, you know, um, completely shifts their minds. They're no longer defensive. They're like, yes, it just happened to me last week, actually. They accept that and they say, yes, I do need to correct. I accept what you
Yeah.
said, but they will never be angry with you or, be distrustful. So that's very important, actually. Again, it goes back to the Swami's message of love in everything that we do,
Yes.
what the situation is. Yeah.
So what you just said reminds me a bit of the Satya Sai International Leadership Program 2017, class of 2017, because that's where I was. And I remember we were taught about the Advaita principle, and the picture that they had was Swami here and Swami here, and they're looking at each other and they're speaking. And we were told whenever you have a conversation and maybe it doesn't feel very pleasant, remember you're talking to Swami. And that really took me aback. Like, okay, yes, that's the naughty Swami, and you need to
Yeah.
effectively and lovingly communicate, but that's still Swami. And that has stuck with me. And that's why I think sometimes people hesitate to speak about a difficult situation or if there's a conflict. But I think it's better to actually have that conversation, even if it may feel challenging, it may feel hard to do, because you'll come away from that still feeling the love that you're having this conversation because you love them, because you're
Yeah.
looking at them with this lens of love. And it reminds me of something you told me a few years ago, which was I asked you, how do we compromise well? And you said, we don't compromise. We make decisions in unity. And you said, we look at both sides and we look at what is best for everyone together. And I think that absolutely goes in alignment with what Swami's been trying to teach us. And you've been around since basically sleeping on the veranda. And these have been some very unique experiences, especially from the perspective of me as someone who came into this fold after Mahasamadhi. What have you felt have been other defining moments with Swami for you?
Yeah, so a couple of things, especially one, I always talk about this, it was so powerful in my mind. And, a lot of times, we say we want to follow Swami, we want to do, follow his message. But 24 hours, we're doing so many other things as well. Of course, that's part of life because you have to live your life. And Swami's not saying not to do that as much as be conscious about the
Yeah.
divine within and divine in others as you're doing these things as well. And I think, when we start separating that, I think that's when we have our conflicts in our own minds. And once you kind of take that off, like I was telling earlier, to me, the first thing when I see someone is, hey, that's God or that's divine,
Yeah.
and it's kind of falls into a place as well. Is that people are, Swami says like if I'm in a dream, that means I
Precious.
will, right? So it's, and I've had a lot of dreams with Swami, but one particular dream was so powerful, two, but one was probably the most powerful. So I was in a wedding reception, and one of the Sai aunties, we were just talking. I don't know what made me do that, say that. This was, when I was still pretty young. I said, Auntie, I've come to a point in my life that I'm ready to give up my life for Swami. I don't know why I said it, you know. Uh, but at that moment, I really felt it.
Mm.
Um, and then we had conversation, and that was the end of that. And that night, I got a dream actually. In that dream, I was in Kulwant Hall. I was the only person on the veranda, and the thousands and thousands and thousands of people in the Kulwant Hall. Bhajans start. All I could hear is the bhajans, the roaring of the bhajans, the sound. And Swami starts walking so beautifully. And he walks through the crowd, comes straight to me, and he puts his hand on my head and he starts waving his hand. And Vibhuti just starts pouring and pouring and pouring. I'm completely drenched in Vibhuti. And then he leaves. When I got up, I was thinking, what a powerful moment. I really felt convinced, and to this date I do, is that when you're in that state of mind that you're ready to give up everything to God, submit yourself to God. Um, this is what happens, right? He's giving you this moment of bliss. And I always think, how do I stay in that moment all the
Yeah.
time? That means staying in that moment of in a complete submission. Of course, it's not easy in the sense that we get distracted. To me, that's the problem. Not that it's not easy, but the distractions kind of sway us, and then we try to come back. But at least we come back. It's important to come back. But
Yes.
that moment really taught me a lesson. That I always think, how can I be in that moment of complete surrender, complete service. Swami always talks about the importance of selfless service, right?
Yes.
Expect and if you, my philosophy is that if you're able to help, just help. That's there is no thinking about it. Why should I do it? Do I have time and all these things. If you can do it, just do it. There's no other discussion in my mind. And to me, that's such an important aspect. How I like to live my life is that, if you can't help, that's okay. You're not able to help because you got other things. So whatever it is, but let any decision like that to help somebody not be based on
What you
what
get.
they're saying, what they've done to you, or whatever. It doesn't matter. It absolutely does not matter. If you are able to help, if you want to help, just do it. We kind of go back to the just do it. Um, I, I, I'm so convinced that's the right thing for me, actually. Yeah. And the other kind of cute, it's like in a dream, you're talking about Swami, right? Talking to Swami. You had conversations with Swami. But a lot of the dreams, he never used to talk to me. Just, he holds my hand or, takes me around or whatever. And so I happened to mention this to my sister one day. I said, we were talking about Swami's dreams, I think, or Swami is just Swami conversations and all that. And he says, I told her, Swami never talks to me in my dreams. He's all about, it's great, but he's never talked to me in my dreams, because you hear a lot of conversation, dreams, right, where he's talking to you.
Yeah.
And that night I get a dream. It's like I'm in Prashantanilayam, and some of the, at least in my mind, in that dream, the theme is around service.
Mm.
Swami literally comes straight to me, literally like so close to my face, and he talks. He says, "I know that's exactly what you want to do," and he leaves. It's like I know it was so beautiful, and I think it's like reading my mind in so many aspects. Right, one is part of service. One is okay. I better give him what he wants. Let me just say a few words to him. And since then, I've had several dreams, and he hasn't talked to me again.
It's like I'll oblige you for now,
Okay.
and then I'll do things my way.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was so cute, so loving, as well. One of the things I really wanted to talk about earlier when we were
Mm.
talking about, self-reflection and all that, when you is that you hear a lot of people always talking in the context of Swami or religion, or whatever it is. And Swami, on the other hand, is saying, "Hey, I'm everywhere. I'm in everyone." Just because you don't separate based on whether someone is a Sai devotee or not. You know what I
Mm.
mean? You see a lot of conversations in that space
Yeah.
everywhere, even among Sai devotees. Um, and I try not to get involved with those conversations. And the reason is because I'm so convinced that there's goodness in everyone. And if you
Yes.
truly believe Swami telling you that there's divine in everyone, what does that mean? No matter what the external aspect of that person or persons is, there's true goodness there's
Mm.
some goodness in them, whatever it is. Okay. And I think we have to be convinced of that. I think to me, it's such an important aspect of how I like to live my day-to-day life is that understand that there is goodness in every person that you come across, irrespective of what they're telling you, what they're
Mm.
talking about. To me, it's such an important thing. To me, that's the best way of really following Swami's message of loving someone or seeing the divine in that person. Otherwise, it's like that external is automatically stopping that feeling of that love and that aspect of understanding the divine in the other person, actually. So,
So what it makes me think of is if we're looking at the next person, and maybe it's someone who has yelled at you while you're driving your car. And if we're looking at every person as God, then we say God works in mysterious ways. And you can get through it. So
absolutely.
I think it's quite an applicable way to approach life because when when we normally say this, it's, let's say you didn't get that job. But we don't know what God has in store for you. Or something doesn't work out, but you don't know what God was protecting you from. So in
Right,
this
right.
way, it's saying God works in mysterious ways. And I'm
Absolutely.
sure that's a way to be so peaceful, so at ease with life.
Absolutely. It makes you feel so much at peace, I think. So any of those situations, it doesn't matter what context, what variety, I do two things. It has helped me a lot, actually. One, I smile. I always smile, but I smile more. And two, I accept what they want me to accept, what they are trying to tell me.
Mm,
Um, and when you do that, you feel good because I always say, who knows you best than yourself, right? Of course, God
yeah,
knows, but other than that, and your God too, but who knows you best other, so you got to be convinced of that. That's very, very important, actually. But if someone says he's coming and yelling at you of doing something, so you gave them that perception that something, of course, you can explain yourself.
yeah,
I find it, just accept first, smile, and then explain yourself. And you'll find that that person will either retract or never say anything after that.
yeah.
To me, it's helped me a lot personally. Not that many people come to me with accusing me of anything. A lot of people usually don't. Usually they want to say something. It's like, the other day I thought it was very interesting, fascinating how people think. Someone came to me, one of my colleagues came to me and said, that we work in a clinic, obviously seeing patients and all that, and she told me, the people at the front desk are scared of you. I thought that was really odd, because
Wow.
You know, I, I
Okay.
I never say anything. But this is the beauty of that conversation. Um, and immediately before I asked, and I'm thinking, oh, what does that mean? And she said, and the reason they're scared of you is because you're too nice. And I was trying to put those two together, and I think for them, they're scared of even asking me anything. Let's say there's a guideline, you shouldn't see some beyond so many number of patients. Sometimes I tend to add patients to the list, and they're like, no, no, you can't do that. You gotta, so they want to tell me that, but they're scared to tell me that because they Dr. Conjeevaram is too nice. Um, uh, I thought it was a very interesting way of looking at it. So if you kind of think that way, right? Um, if I just respond or something being defensive, I didn't say anything and all that, it wouldn't have helped me at all.
Mm,
But understanding that also teaches me something. Just because I'm in a situation to see 5 extra patients, I need to think of them as well because they're looking at me and it's like, God, you're kind of breaking the rule here, and we can't even tell you because you're so nice. You got to think of the others as well. Just because you're doing something nice, you got to think of people around you as well. Is that are you doing things in that context in the right way? Whatever the guidelines are, that's equally important as well. A lot of times people you will
yeah,
see, I'm doing a good thing. Absolutely, no one is saying that you're not. But you know what? This is not the right time and place. You got to think of the others too. So that's how I interpret that actually. But I thought it was
yeah.
so cute. It's so cute that you are scared of me because I'm too nice.
Well, I think it goes back to another lesson that you taught me a few years ago, which is first understanding and then adjustment. And
Yeah,
so you took the understanding of what they were trying to say and the adjustment in maybe, yes, you have the capacity to see 5 more patients, but maybe they need to get home and they'll have to stay longer. And so that
yeah,
is why I think it's be do see say. And you've done the 3 steps first before you come to the point of saying, and that
absolutely.
matters.
It really matters because you'll find this so many times people saying, I was trying to do the right thing. you hear a lot of people say that, but have you actually thought about people you're affecting by
Mm,
what you think is the right thing? Whether it's inconvenience, like you said, whatever the situation is. Do you actually understand that? If you completely do things, without even asking that or trying to understand that, especially when you know
yeah.
something that, then you might look at it very differently. No one is saying not to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Again, respect, there are boundaries, right, as well. So respect that. Yeah, that's such an important thing. You're not inconveniencing others, unless if they say, "Look, I want to do it for you." When Sri Lanka, right, the typhoon hit. I had made a decision to leave on a Monday, and then so it wasn't too many days. For us to change our clinics and all that, we have to give a lot of notice.
Yeah.
And I was going to go for a week, and I had a lot of clinics that week that I was leaving. So I was trying to figure out how do I do this? How do I? I did send a message. I'm doing this. I have to leave. Would you mind helping me with all the schedule changes and all that? And I get this email from one of the schedulers, and she said, Doc, I'm so happy that you're doing it. I'm actually coming this Saturday and working, full time the entire, as long as it takes, I'm going to take care of all the scheduling changes. And she said, I'm not charging the institution. It was so powerful, I mean, there was no reason that she had to do it, or, but she said, I need to do this. I think to me that was the right thing to do. It was so heartening to me that that she wasn't expecting anything either in return, in a pay for working those 8 hours. She said, I just want to do it. I'm going to do it on my time to help you. It was so beautiful, actually. It was so beautiful. And I think if we create an environment, and that's what I meant earlier when I started conversation saying, inspire and be inspired. I use
Yeah.
that quote all the time. I think I made it up, but I'm not sure where it comes. Um, 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 to me, that's very powerful, actually. We can change hearts by what we do. We don't have to tell people to do that. Just doing it, and then people, I always say that people are always watching us, good
Yes.
or bad, and they emulate. I try to emulate people that I think are very positive, or I want to take something from them. I think it's a good thing, actually.
Yeah.
You try to be a better person, right? So
I'm so with you on the point of if we find something that we admire in another person, to take that as our inspiration and do our version of it. We're not saying
yeah,
to copy them. We're
yeah.
saying be you with the positive
Mm,
attributes. And
ab-
one question that I ask whenever it's someone that has known Bhagavan in the physical form is, having known him in the physical form and then the experience of Mahasamadhi and now, how do you feel? Has there been a difference? Do you feel that it's changed in any way, your relationship with him?
Absolutely not. There's absolutely no difference to me. Very similar to the interview room, right? There is no difference. I think the differences, of course, I can understand when people feel that loss or communicate that, that emotional aspect of the loss, or say, we've never seen Swami, you did, how lucky you are, and all that. Of course, we're all lucky in so many ways. I could be lucky in one thing, and you could be lucky in another thing. It's good to talk about it, but don't compare yourself because of
Yeah.
that, right? It doesn't get us anywhere when you start comparing. No, absolutely not. I mean, to me, he's always there, even if I'm not consciously thinking that he's there. Hasn't really changed my relationship of how I feel about him, what I think of him as God. or what I need to do, to continue in that path actually. But absolutely no difference to me. At least that's just me. I don't want to talk for others actually. It's just me. I always, yeah. So, one thing, you were talking about the transformation, and I always say that people are watching you, right? And sometimes you're transforming people even if they don't understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful example. One day, my work email is omsairam@UMich. UMich stands for University of Michigan. Um, yeah, so usually you're not supposed to have your own whatever you want in the email. It
Yeah.
has all of your name actually. But what happened was when I took the position here at the University of Michigan, when you're starting out, people asked me, give your password. And I was thinking, give a code for and I was thinking it was a password for the patient charts. I thought that was awesome. So I told them Om Sai Ram. And the person on the other side should have realized it as well. And he knew that nothing in my name was Om Sai Ram, but he or she made that my email. So it's been my email, for the past 25 years. The reason I'm mentioning that, because everyone who gets your email, they're saying Om Sai Ram, right?
Yeah.
My nurse comes to me one day and she says, Hari, you know, uh, I just want to tell you something. I said, what? She said, because nurses get the brunt of everything initially because
Yes. The
the patients,
patients and the doctors.
oh my goodness, they hear the worst of things or complaints or whatever it is. It gets very frustrating,
Yeah.
all frustrating, but overwhelming, emotionally overwhelming as well to deal with that. It's very difficult for nurses. And then, they relay that to us and we say a few words and, so we're not actually bothered by all these emotional things, right?
Yeah.
And she said, sometimes they're like, I get so upset with these patients, and she says, nowadays I'm calm. She says, every time that happens, I just say Om Sai Ram. She doesn't understand what exactly Om Sai Ram means,
Yeah.
but that every time I say that, the reason I say that is because I know that you're so calm in every situation. So she connected Om Sai Ram with how I conduct my life.
Calm and smiley.
And this is, I say Om Sai Ram, and that's it. I thought that was such an amazing Swami having that effect. And to me, that's what I meant. It never ever underestimate the power of our actions and how it
Yeah.
can influence positive on others or negative for that matter.
Yes.
But if we stay positive, stay loving, we're going to, convey that. And people may not tell you, that's not the reason you do it, right? Some people might come back later on actually and tell you about it. And, anytime people praise me and people praise, each other for different things. Two things I always think about is give that all that praise to Swami, because to me, the way you conduct yourself doesn't happen unless
Yeah.
without, right? At least, with us, at least for me, at least. The reason I'm where I am today, or how I am today, is because of Swami. That's such an important thing. And two, absolutely remain humble in that situation. Don't run with that praise. It's a slippery slope. Not that you're going to fall, but it doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't add any value to your life.
It's the
You know?
equanimity aspect. It's,
Equity.
remaining the same, whether we're praised or we're blamed, because
Yeah,
otherwise, when we're blamed, it'll pull us down so badly. So
absolutely. Yeah.
rather stay equal.
Yeah. Things could be falling. There are times sometimes my wife says, you should be angry right now, aren't you? She says, I'm like smiling. I always say that things could be falling, I'll be smiling. But that really helped me personally.
Mm,
And that helps going back to what you said. that equanimity actually. It really to me, that smiling translates to equanimity or vice versa, I suppose. It's such an important aspect and keeps you peaceful. That doesn't mean you shouldn't keep up your responsibilities, though.
Yes.
Swami always says that, right? We all have a role to play. We got to do the work. That's equally important as well. Uh, but maintain that equanimity at every situation.
Absolutely. And I think what I have taken from our conversation is just like what Swami has told us, that there's no reason for love and there's no season for love. And that is why when you wish to help someone, you go ahead and you just do it because you don't need a reason. It doesn't have to be a particular day or time of year. It's simply because of love. And as someone that I feel strongly represents love, I'm so honored to have had the opportunity to share this beautiful satsang with you. And I pray that you continue smiling and continue sharing Swami's love with everyone around you. My most loving Sai Rams.
Thanks so much, and thank you for having me for this incredible honor, actually. Thank you.